WURD, we are here, show on the go, WURD Show on the go. It is a beautiful day, New Covenant Church, the rapping professor, and we are here, Poor People's Campaign. It is the PA hearings, and it is amazing just to hear from the people. 1968, Dr. King called for a Poor People's Campaign and a Poor People's March, and they were going to Washington, they were going to set up tents, and they were going to shut it down until something happened. And right now, in our country, we stand on the precipice of the potential for great change. People talking about a Green Deal, a new Green Deal, where we're going to, spend billions and trillions of dollars, transforming America like it's never been transformed before. Dr. King called for a massive redistribution of the nation's wealth in order to achieve some degree of sincere equality, some manifestation of real equality, not just, some documentation, but a true manifestation. Tangibles in 2020 we talk about all the time. So right now, we got people, who've been doing the grassroots work for years inside, not just talking the talk, but have been walking the walk, and they're coming together with the faith community and the greater community, and PA Poor People's Campaign. The hearings are here. New Covenant Church, you did it. Yeah, some people just have a church, but some people are the church. So salute to New Covenant, salute to the PA Poor People's Campaign and the PA hearings today. And we want to make sure that you are here to understand all the different struggles that are coming together in a unified way to make sincere change. WURD, show on the go, Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. It's a time for change, and it's been a long time coming, but a change gonna come.
Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on?
WURD WURD Show on the go. Aaron Smith, the rapping professor, New Covenant Church, Poor People's Campaign. The hearings here in Philadelphia. You can't have organizations and organizing without organizers. Right now, I have one of the organizers here with me, Nishmi, and talk to the people about what brought you into this work and why it was so important to have an event like this at this time.
I came into this work through life experience, just growing up, asking why. I wanted to understand why the people around me were going through the things they were going through. Very simple. I didn't come from a family of organizers or activists. I just came from a family of poor folks that were devastated by this world. So that's why I came into this work. I've been involved in the lead up to the Poor People's Campaign for about 10 years, building up to this. And now I'm one of the co-chairs in Pennsylvania. That is a volunteer position, but it's very important to me because this is the most important thing I'm doing in my life.
I always marvel at the fact that so many people don't see themselves as poor simply because they managed to barely make it, from check to check. And I think that it's just a small percentage of the people who are actually poor recognize, or I guess sometimes they recognize, would admit to themselves, the reality of the situation. We can have that critical mass to cause a tipping point, in the country. But do you have issues with that, like convincing people that, you're not as different than some of the people that we serve that are in touch with that? If you could speak to that a little bit.
I think that there's a reason behind that, and that's because of the shame that's implanted in us about it, because we're made to feel like it's an individual problem, like we messed up, we did something wrong, that's why you're poor, you're lazy, you're stupid, you didn't get an education. But in reality, poverty is produced by the system. Poverty is part of the system. There can be no vast wealth without poverty. So poverty is something that is replicated by the very system that we live in. And so it's not really a shame. It's not an individual personal failing. It's actually a structural problem. So we do really do a lot of talking about that and making sure people understand that when we say poor and dispossessed, it's not a marker of shame. It's actually just a description of how our society is structured, and it's structured around exploitation.
Shameful structure. That's where the shame is. It's like a game of musical chairs, and instead of getting mad at the person who didn't put out enough chairs, we try to knock each other over, and you're breaking grandma's hips at the family reunion instead of just saying, hey, turn that music off, what's going on in here? But today, we're stopping the music, not following any capitalistic Pied Piper, and we want to make sure that people know where they can get involved. Give them the social media and the website information and everything like that as well.
Absolutely. You can find us on Pennsylvania Poor People's Campaign on Facebook. That's a great way to keep up with us, PA Poor People's Campaign. And And then you can also find out about us at poorpeoplescampaign.org. Actually, is also our website, poorpeoplescampaign.org. The national website is just www.poorpeoplescampaign.org.
So before China decides they don't want to cover these debts, and before Africa realizes that if they trade their resources at market value, we'd be like a third world country, I think that we should just, recognize the power of unity and make sure that equity is on everybody's priority list fairly high, and don't look at this as an individual game, but it's a team sport, and we're on Team Humanity today. New Covenant Church, Poor People's Campaign, and hearings convening in Philadelphia.
Profit over life is a crime against humanity. Corporate greed is racist. The mayor and city council must be held accountable for not supporting the residents that live around the crime. Really proud. No justice, no peace.
Right now, I just want to give you a little bit of what we got inside. We have one of the panelists here with us. We have Jamal, we have Noble, his son, and we're going to talk a little bit about what was talked about today and what needs to be talked about going forward, and not just the talk, but the action. So just give us a synopsis if you could.
Well, everybody's story was powerful. You heard everything from housing issues, which is what I spoke about, to military issues, healthcare rights, everything that basically the poor go through every day and it's ignored. If you listen to mainstream media, you listen to the right-wing pundits, everything, what we're going through is our fault. There's no comment about the systems that's put into place that make it so that we go through what we go through. You don't hear any comment about the fact that for every poor black household, the wealth inequality is real, and it's there. It was structured that way. You can, and even comparing poor whites to poor blacks, if a poor white family has $100, that same poor black family in the same situation might only have $5. And the system is wrote like that to keep us at odds with each other, to keep us from coming together and joining together, which is what makes this campaign such a great thing, because it brings everybody together from all walks of life, regardless of what your color is, to view the one fact that we're all poor. 45% of this country is poor, which is almost 1 in 2 people. There's no reason why the richest country in the world and half of its citizens can barely afford to pay rent and bills and provide their children with the things that they desire, let alone the things that they need.
Now, we had a chance while we were inside to hear from Brother Jamal's son, Noble, but I want you to just hear for yourself. People always talk about what the young people are doing, and they talk about what the young people are not doing, right? People always say the negative stuff about the young people, but when the young people step up and organize and speak out on behalf of their generation in a positive way, they don't get enough attention. So right now, I just want, the young brother to be able to speak from his perspective and let you know what some of the young people are thinking about, because people always ask, what's up with the young people, and I'm going to give you, a person that can speak on behalf of the young people right now.
I don't really know how most young people think. I have been doing this for 3 years now. I am a part of ACT UP Philadelphia, and it is hard to find young people who will do this work. But the ones of us who do this work, it is important to us, and we do the best that we can. We do the most that we can, and we fight every chance we get. We recognize that people are getting mistreated in this country, and that is not okay. We know that our schools are underfunded. We know that black and brown people cannot do what they need to do because the system is wrote against them. We have heard about the school to prison pipeline. We have heard it all, and some people just turn their backs, but some of us don't. And those of us that don't, we do what we can.
And before we go, if you could just give us the website information or social media information for people who want to get involved with ACT UP or, support some of the things that you all are doing. Share that with us if you can.
We have a Facebook page, which is ACT UP Philadelphia. You can also find we have an Instagram, Twitter, and we meet at St. Luke's Church in Center City on 13th Street between Pine and Spruce every Monday from 6 to about 8:30 at night.
Right. Act Up, Jamal, Noble, we are here. New Covenant. It is WURD Word Show on the go. And I want to make sure that you all understand that it is important for us to see past these petty divisions that people are using to manipulate us and pit us against each other and focus on common enemies in order to really make tangible change, especially right now as we approach 2020. Big things are going on, as we like to say. And when people organize and do the right thing, it can happen. We believe it, and you got to believe it too. WURD Word Show on the go. Aaron Smith, the rap professor.
A lot of our family members and friends are throwing away the key. It's hurting our communities more than helping them. We don't believe in long sentences. They're not the answer. We believe in parole, eligibility, and we will continue to fight to have laws changed.
Word Show on the go. It's the one and only rapping professor, New Covenant Church, Poor People's Campaign, the hearings convening here in Philadelphia. It has been an amazing event. I want to talk to you about the panelists, but I'd rather let the panelists talk for themselves and just tell their role and their experiences in today's event, and also what we all need to be aware of and how we can collectively move forward to make positive change. So just introduce yourself to the good people.
Hi, I'm Kareem. I was one of the panelists at the Poor People's hearing today, and I'm a physician in Philadelphia, and I wanted to talk about my experiences as a moral witness in a healthcare system that I think is racked with injustice and inequality. And it was really amazing to be here today and see people connect the dots, because I think that if we really want to move forward as physicians, as healthcare providers, as nurses, as social workers, we have to understand how inequality in healthcare is linked to things like lack of housing, lack of educational opportunities, substandard wages that don't allow people to live. All of those things are connected, and I think one thing that I really will take home from that today is how we can form these connections across different networks of activism to really bring change.
Now, there's two things that always strike me when I see people in positions of prominence that also have the courage to speak out and are receiving the information that would allow them to have the awareness to make a different decision than many of their contemporaries or their colleagues. Because when you're going through medical school, they don't seem to be preparing you to be here speaking the way that you're speaking. So I'd like you to just share a little bit about along your journey, what made you, aware, and what made you confident and courageous enough to stand the way you're standing even after receiving the degrees you have.
So I think some physicians do think of themselves that way, as coming from a privileged class, and so they identify with those in power, and so it's hard for them to go to things like Poor People's marches and so on. I think that given my personal experiences, the things that I've gone through in my life and the things that I've witnessed, I've never shared that view, and I guess I've always been kind of rooting for the underdog, you could say, since the Iraq War. And I grew up in that kind of era where activism was something that became part of my identity. I think that medical school and our education system in general breeds that out of you, where education is a means to an end. Once you get your education, you're done learning, right, in this capitalist system that we have. But I don't agree with that, and I think that I can't just turn my back on everything that I've learned. I've also come to think of myself as a worker in this system. I think that looking at prominent people like Colin Kaepernick and people like that who have spoken out, one thing that I believe is that you can make money, you can have a large income and still be a worker who's subjected to your conditions. If you can't speak freely at your place of work, if you can't speak up against injustice, then you have to think about your position with regard to capital, with regard to your boss. You have to think that you are essentially deprived of your basic rights, right? And so you have to identify with other people in that situation. So I feel like I'm in bondage in many ways. Number one, because speaking out this way can get me into situations where I'm at odds with my boss or with the hospital administration or what have you. Hasn't happened yet, but it's possible. And number two, because I've taken on an enormous amount of debt, and that constantly reminds me of where I belong in the pecking order. So rather than see myself as on another level to nurses or technicians or social workers, why not see us as workers who are trying to overthrow a system that is extremely unjust? And I draw on inspiration from people like Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed and other people who have God on the line and especially Muhammad Ali, who is the ultimate inspiration, because he was able to attain those things, and yet he had the need to speak out against injustice. So if he can do that and turn down being heavyweight champion of the world and go to jail, I can speak up in my own little way as well.
Yeah. Muhammad Ali said he don't care about the belt. If he never had to fight again, if he had to be raggedy, it wouldn't even matter. If he couldn't go back to his community and defend a black woman that was raped or something of that sort, that he didn't want to be the champion because that would cost him his soul, let alone his belt. And I really want to make sure that people are feeling and experiencing the realities of the situations that people go through and understand that nobody has it perfect. People just make a commitment and a decision to do what is right despite any circumstance or possible repercussions, because sometimes you have to put it on the line because there's lives on the line and there's too much at stake to play games and live in fear. I want to thank you so much just for joining us. Thank you, everybody at New Covenant Church. Thank you to the Poor People's Campaign and the hearings convening here in Philadelphia. WURD, Word Show on the Go. Aaron Smith, the rapping professor, and we are going. And there you have it. There you have it. WURD Word Show on the go. I know I'm charged up. You got to be ready to do something after hearing all them people ready to make change and who've been working to make change. PA, Poor People's Hearings, New Covenant Church, WURD Word Show on the go. You see what it is. It was a philosopher. His name was Jay-Z. He said, everybody could talk, but what have they done? Right? And I think that after watching this, there is a lot of things that you know that you can do and organizations that you can connect with and ways that you can institute and initiate some change. And when all else fails, just make sure that you look to history, best served to reward all of our research, as the great Omo Wale Malcolm X would reference all the time. And we know that power conceives nothing without demand, like the master teacher Frederick Douglass instructed us. So take power and take agency into your own hands when it comes to your destiny, and make sure that you reach out and recognize the potential of collective effort. It's one thing to do something by yourself, but when you get together, like Malcolm said, when you get them fingers together, woo, boy, you can rock and sock them, and ain't no stopping them. And make sure you go out and vote. We are on the precipice of potentially one of the greatest transformative governmental initiatives in the history of the nation. We just got to make sure we vote the right way to change our situation. And if you want to make a lot of progress, organize a lot. You want to make a little bit of progress, organize a little bit. And if you want to just stay informed and make sure you stay tuned to WURD. It's 96.1 and it's 900. Y'all know what we got to do now. You act like you know. Get that word app, and the show is on the go, so you can keep up with us because we're going different places. WURD's own the rapping professor Aaron Smith, New Covenant Church, Poor People's Campaign, PA, Poor People's Hearings, and now you heard, and now you know what's the word.